activities, karma kanda. 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10, do not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Once again, I thank you everyone for joining the Bhakti Sangha conference call today. Let us move to our next section, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. May I know who all have joined the call this morning? Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण राधा प्यारी माता जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय। प्रीति दासी फ्रॉम हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, Preeti Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your beautiful association every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Pyari Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Aditi Devi Dasi in Canada.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Haridada from Washington, Fairfax, Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Pyari Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devi Dasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Radha Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji. My Dandavat Pranam to you and to the all assembled devotees of this divine group. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Happy Madhav Tithi to all. Madhav Tithi ki jai. Bhakti Janani Tithi ki jai. Ekadashi Maharani ki jai. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा, राधा प्यारी माता जी, दंडोत प्रणाम। श्रील प्रभुपाद की है, गुरु महाराज की है। दिस इज श्यामा गौरी देवी दासी फ्रॉम शार्लेट।
Hare Krishna, Shama Gauri Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you, Mataji.
Nice to see you too, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. This is Sanita Ramana from Sharjah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. This is Nalini from Austin. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nalini Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru and Gauranga, all glories to assembled devotees. This is Charu from Charlotte. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Zarul Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are fortunate to have His Grace Ravindra Chaitanya Prabhuji to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 4th chapter, texts 51 and 52 onwards. First, I would like to hand over call to Suresham Prabhuji for brief introduction of Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Tanvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I would like to hand over call to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Here is a brief introduction about Prabhuji. Prabhuji was born in an affluent Marwari family. Prabhuji did his schooling in Mumbai. His family got introduced to ISKCON in early 1993 through congregational programs. As a youth, he took up many services, including dramas, kirtans, book distribution, and preaching under ISKCON Youth Forum, Mira Road. He was organized as a youth active leader. After working for many years, Prabhuji got deeply inspired from the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and later he joined the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in 2008 as a full-time member to practice and propagate the sublime teaching of Bhagavad Gita as it is amongst the confused youth. He has completed ISKCON's graduate Bhakti Shastri program twice. He has vast youth preaching and cultivation experience. He has traveled across India for preaching and visiting many holy places. Prabhuji completed a 1 year dedicated study of Srimad Bhagavatam at Bhakti Vedanta Vidyapit, Govardhan Eco Village. Currently, he teaches Bhakti Shastri and runs his own designed program, 7 Steps to Success, and Bhakti Vriksha at ISKCON Pune, and is a COM member of several departments of ISKCON Pune. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. A brief introduction about Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Mataji, I couldn't see Prabhuji not at the.
Yes, Mataji, Prabhuji is not. Prabhuji joined, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhuji. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time and association to us this morning and enlightening on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call to Prabhuji. I would like to hand over call to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam today. And I seek blessings of all the devotees on this group before we begin. So we're discussing from the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, 4th chapter, verse number 51 and 52 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, are we sharing the verse on the screen? Okay. So, first we are going to recite verse number 51 and then 52. Srila Prabhupada hasn't given a purport to verse number 51. Therefore, we'll be taking these 2 verses. So, this is the 6th canto, chapter number 4. The chapter is entitled The Hams Guhya Prayers. Text number 51. My voice is clear, right? And audible.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can able to hear.
Okay. Esha Panchajanasyanga Duhita Vahi Prajapatehe Asikni Nama Patnitve
प्रजेश प्रतिगृह्यताम् एषा पञ्चजनस्यङ्गा दुहिता वै प्रजापतेः असिक्नीनां पत्नीत्वे प्रजेश प्रतिगृह्यताम् एषा पञ्चजनस्यङ्गा दुहिता वै प्रजापतेः असिक्नीनां पत्नीत्वे प्रजेश प्रतिगृह्यताम्. What meaning? Esha, this, Panchajanasya of Panchajan, Anga, O my dear son, Duhita, the daughter, Vai, indeed, Prajapatihi, another Prajapati, a Sikni, another Prajapati, Asikni Naam, of the name Asikni, Patnitve, as your wife, Prajesha, O Prajapati, Pratigrihiyatam, let her be accepted. Translation. O my dear son, Daksha, Prajapati Panchajana has a daughter named Asikni, whom I offer to you, so that you may accept her as your wife. We are moving to text number 52, which has a translation, purport also, very powerful purport. Text number 52. I'll recite it 3 times and then you all can also recite. Mithuna vyavaya dharmastvam praja sargam imam punaha Mithuna vyavaya dharminyam bhurisho bhavayishyasi Mithuna vyavaya dharmastvam praja sargam imam punaha Mithuna vyavaya dharminyam bhurisho bhavayishyasi Mithuna vyavaya dharmastvam praja sargam imam punaha Mithuna vyavaya dharminyam bhurisho bhavayishyasi. Any of you would like to recite this verse?
Can you scroll it down? Mithuna vyavaya dharmasvam raja sargam imam punaha Mithuna vyaya dharminyam bhurisho bhavayishyasi. Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other devotees?
Mithuna. Go ahead, Mata.
Krishna.
Can I read from
Yes.
Mithana vivaya dharma sarvam praja sargam imam punna Mithuna avavya dharminayam bhurisho bhavashyasi. Hare Krishna.
One last recitation. One last, if anyone is there.
Mithuna vyavaya dharmasvam praja sargam imam punaha Mithuna vyavaya dharmiyam bhurisho bhava vishwasi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Word to word meaning. Mithuna, of man and woman. Vyavaya, sexual activities. Dharmaha, who accepts by religious performance. Tvam, you. Praja Sargam, creation of living entities. Imam, this. Punaha, again. Mithuna, of man and woman united, Vyavaya Dharminyam, in her according to the religious performance of sexual intercourse, Bhuri Shaha, manifold, Bhavayishyasi, you will cause to be. Translation. Now unite in sexual life as man and woman, and in this way, by sexual intercourse, you will be able to beget hundreds of children in the womb of this girl to increase the population. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7:11, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. I am sex that is not contrary to religious principles. Sexual intercourse ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is dharma, a religious principle, but it is not intended for sense enjoyment. Indulgence in sense enjoyment through sexual intercourse is not allowed by the Vedic principles. One may follow the natural tendency for sex life only to beget children. Therefore, the Lord told Daksha in this verse, this girl is offered to you only for sex life to beget children, not for any other purpose. She is very fertile, and therefore you will be able to have as many children as you can beget. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that Daksha was given the facility for unlimited sexual intercourse. In Daksha's previous life, he was also known as Daksha, but in the course of performing sacrifices, he offended Lord Shiva, and thus his head was replaced with that of a goat. Then Daksha gave up his life because of his degraded condition, but because he maintained the same unlimited sexual desires, he underwent austerities by which he satisfied the Supreme Lord, who then gave him unlimited potency for sexual intercourse. It should be noted that although such a facility for sexual intercourse is achieved by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this facility is not offered to advanced devotees who are free from material desires. Anya abhilashita shunyam. In this connection, it may be noted that if the American boys and girls engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement want to advance in Krishna consciousness, to achieve the supreme benefit of loving service to the Lord, they should refrain from indulging in this facility for sex life. Therefore, we advise that one should at least refrain from illicit sex. Even if there are opportunities for sex life, one should voluntarily accept the limitation of having sex only for progeny, not for any other purpose. Kardamuni was also given the facility for sex life, but he had only a slight desire for it. Therefore, after begetting children in the womb of Devhuti, Kardamuni became completely renounced. The purport is that if one wants to return home, back to Godhead, one should voluntarily refrain from sex life. Sex should be accepted only as much as needed, not unlimitedly. One should not think that Daksha received the favor of the Lord by receiving the facilities for unlimited sex. Later verses will reveal that Daksha again committed an offense, this time at the lotus feet of Narad. Therefore, although sex life is the topmost enjoyment in the material world, and although one may have an opportunity for sexual enjoyment by the grace of God, this entails a risk of committing offenses. Daksha was open to such offenses, and therefore, strictly speaking, he was not actually favored by the Supreme Lord. One should not seek the favor of the Lord for unlimited potency in sex life. Om Agyan Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनो अभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम् श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च नमाहं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we would like to welcome everyone for this class today morning, and we are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, 4th chapter, text number 51 and 52. In this, the Lord is conversing with Daksha Prajapati. He is saying, earlier in the 51st verse, he says, "O my dear son Daksha Prajapati, Panchajana has a daughter, Prajapati Panchajana has a daughter named Asikni, whom I offer to you so that you may accept her as your wife." And in 52, the Lord is saying, now unite in sexual life as a man and woman. And in this way, by sexual intercourse, you will be able to beget hundreds of children in this womb, in the womb of this girl, to increase the population. Now, this is the concluding part of Hamsa Guhya prayers. So before even we start talking about it, one very special feature as we see in this Srila Prabhupada's purports is that Srila Prabhupada is so very open. Sometimes he goes even beyond the Lord in speaking his heart out. That nature of being very bona fide makes him one of those rare commentators on the Srimad Bhagavatam who speak very, very straightforward, very, very clear. And therefore, without worrying about what people will think or what is the general norm or what will be acceptable to the society or what won't be, Srila Prabhupada doesn't mind, doesn't worry about it so much. He speaks very clearly whatever is there in the scriptures. Although the Lord does not make things so crystal clear as Srila Prabhupada speaks, sometimes he goes even much further. And Srila Prabhupada speaks of personal application and preaching application also in his purports. So that is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's purports, that he does not really, think of the general people's opinion on certain things. Here he is very openly speaking of the purpose of actually engaging in sexual intercourse. So this is one thing to begin with. Now this Hams Guhya prayers, the 4th chapter, is a very interesting chapter. It is interesting because the name Hams Guhya is a secret. Guhya word means secret. And the question comes, what is this Hamsa connected to? Hamsa Guhya prayers. Generally, these prayers are related to if Kunti Maharani is praying, then we say prayers of Kunti Maharani, teachings of Lord Kapila. So generally these prayers are connected with the name of the person, right? Rudra Gita, for example, is the song of Lord Shiva. So, however, here we have a bit different. None of them is a Hamsa, as it appears. Hamsa means a swan, actually. One translation means that Hamsa is a swan. And then Hamsa Guhya, secret swan, something like that. So it is a little difficult to understand. I just tried to find out what this could mean. One reference said that Hamsa means the universal soul, the secret prayers to the universal soul. So the Supreme Lord is the universal soul, and praying to him, the prayers to him by Daksha Prajapati are these Hamsa Guhya prayers. And we are actually coming to a conclusion of the Hamsa Guhya prayers and the whole episode. So the background is that Daksha Prajapati, who was present in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there was a big dispute, a big fight between the Prajapati and Lord Shiva. So it stems from there. The seed of the whole episode is coming from there. And this Prajapati Daksha could not tolerate the apparent offense of Lord Shiva, who did not rise from his seat to welcome Daksha Prajapati in the assembly. So imagine a scene where the Prajapati is walking inside the assembly. Thousands and thousands of highly dignified people are there. It's a full house, full program. Everyone has their respective seats. And when the Prajapati is walking from the middle and reaching up to the stage, he sees that while everyone gets up from his seat, there are these two personalities who are sitting right next to the main seat, which was supposed to be occupied by Daksh Prajapati. And those two people just don't care a damn about it. In fact, they are very busy, or they are absorbed in their own things. One of them, the nearmost seat to Daksh Prajapati, is occupied by Brahmaji. So Daksha does not mind that, because Brahma happens to be the father of Daksha Prajapati. So Prajapati is okay with that. But the next seat to Brahmaji is that of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is the son-in-law in one relation to Daksha Prajapati. He is the son-in-law. So Daksha could not digest the apparent insult by Lord Shiva, because he did not rise from the seat. So when everyone is rising, all others are getting up from their seat. Here are these two people, and Daksha takes it as a great offense, a great insult. In fact, not getting into that episode fully, but there he actually criticizes Lord Shiva, and he offends Lord Shiva, and the whole episode turns into a nightmarish fight between the Shiv Ganas and the people from this side, from that side. There's a lot of cursing, counter cursing, etc. The point over here, which we are trying to highlight, is what was the cause of that? Because that cause is very important. That cause defines this cause also. The cause of that whole episode was that Daksha Prajapati had a deep-rooted desire for prestige. Deep-rooted, it's very deep-rooted. And it is one such manifestation of one's sex life, Prabhupada ji mentions. So Daksha maintained that desire for prestige. He was very much affected when he did not receive that prestige. Puja labh pratishtha shukarera vishtha, as it is said. Here we are talking of pratishtha, prestige. In another episode in the 10th canto, we read of Indra, who was very keen to see his puja, worship, being retained amongst the Brajvasis. These are subtle manifestations of the same original desire for sex life. So, pratishtha, social prestige, is being highlighted over here. Daksha Prajapati offends Shiva mainly because he saw his prestige, his social prestige, coming to, social prestige was affected. So, therefore, Daksha Prajapati actually offended Lord Shiva. And although a big battle ensued after that, Daksha Prajapati maintained that same desire. And while this whole episode, the Daksha Prajapati's original episode of the 4th canto, happened in the reign, in the period of Swayambhuva Manu, the first Manu, here the reappearance, the return of Daksha happens in the 6th Manvantar, that is the Chakshush Manvantar. In between, there are 5 Manvantars, a significantly long period, a very, very huge, long, significant span of time goes, and all that time, Daksha Prajapati is performing austerity. Why did he perform austerity? Because in the earlier verses, there is a reference to that in the same chapter. Daksha Prajapati could not digest the degraded life that he was living. Lord Shiva had cut his head and fixed an artificial head of a goat. And that particular goat-headed Daksha could not take it. He could not accept that social insult. Every time he felt very rebuked when he saw himself in the mirror. And because of that, he gave up that body and then he performed austerity. Generally, we think that this austerity would cleanse the heart. But even though the austerity was performed for a prolonged period, 5 Manvantaras is no less. It's a huge time. Every Manvantar happens in a day of Brahma, 14 Manus come and go. So it's a huge period, 71 Chaturyugas, as they say, for every Manvantar. And 5 Manvantars, we are talking of roughly 300, 350 Chaturyugas passing by. Each Chaturyuga means Satyug, Tretayug, Dwapar, Kalyug, a big cycle of 43 lakh years. So Daksha Prajapati underwent austerity for such a long period, unimaginable period. I mean, probably he holds a world record in performing austerity for such a long period. In fact, the organizers of the World Record Committee won't be there to note his world record. They would have all gone by far. But then he performed the austerity for so long. And then when he reappeared in the 6th Manvantar, the Chakshush Manvantar, here we see Daksha Prajapati still maintaining the same desire of having union with a woman. And therefore, when he recites the Hamsaguhya prayers, and those prayers are in those, I think, 11 or 12 verses from 23, 24 till about 35, 36. So when he recites those Hamsaguhya prayers, and these Hamsaguhya prayers, the secret prayers to the universal soul, it's a good translation to take. when he recites these prayers are already existing. It's not a creation of Daksha Prajapati. He is reciting these prayers. Probably he has heard these prayers, memorized it from some sources. So he's just making a recitation. And after reciting these prayers, the Lord appears. And the Lord appears in a very splendid way, very magnificent form, 8-handed. There he's standing on Garuda, and he has his 8-handed form, body is blackish, bluish, and he's wearing his pitambari. So the Lord does not perform the same reciprocation with everyone. He performs differently. In case of Prithu Maharaj, one of the ancestors here, Daksha is the son of Prachetas. The episode, this chapter begins with the Prachetas coming out of water after having performed the austerity for many, many years. And when they were very anguished, very angry upon seeing the mismanagement because of no progeny, no king. There was a lot of upgrown trees and everything was haywire. So then they burnt so many trees. That is the time when Soma, the moon god, who is the caretaker of all these trees, he appeared and tried to console the Prachetas, who were very powerful because of the austerities they had performed. And then he offered them one daughter, which was born through Pramlocha. All this episode we have seen. But the interesting thing is that when Prachetas married this girl, they produced Daksha from that union. And while they had taken up the task of increasing progeny, that was actually one of the arguments given by Soma, that you are the Prachetas, Prajapatis, you have undergone austerities to actually increase progeny. But now if you are cutting down, you're burning all the trees, how will life subsist? You need trees for subsistence of life. So you need to take care of those trees. Please don't burn them. Rather marry my daughter, and then you can increase, you can start being involved in the original purpose. But then they produced Daksha Prajapati and then offered all that responsibility to Daksha. We don't hear of Prachetas getting involved into further progeny creation after that. So they safely escaped from that whole responsibility, or at least we don't read about it in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But then Daksha takes it up to his heart. He says, this is my duty, I have to do it. And now this Daksha, the rebirth of Daksha has happened. And Daksha, the word Daksha means he's very expert. So here he is a very expert progeny creator, progenist probably. And we are reading that the Lord is offering him a blessing. And the Lord understands the desire of Prajapati Daksha. And in the blessing, he says that you should marry the daughter of Prajapati Panchajana. Her name is Asikni, and marry her as your wife, accept her as your wife. And then he says, now unite in sexual life as a man and woman. And in this way, you beget hundreds of children in this womb to increase the population. Interesting. So now, two purports, Srila Prabhupada's purport and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport, help us understand the depth of this verse. Srila Prabhupada has consolidated the purport mainly for the devotees of ISKCON, the current practicing devotees of ISKCON. In the purport, he makes a reference, he makes a mention of the American boys and girls who are his disciples. And at that point of time, 6th canto is being written, so in the early stages of ISKCON. And Srila Prabhupada says that while the Lord is blessing Daksha Prajapati to engage in family life, he says that this is not a facility this facility, achievement of this facility is not to be considered as the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is not offered to advanced devotees. Srila Prabhupada is saying that this facility for sexual intercourse is not offered to advanced devotees who are free from material desires, anya abhilashita shunya. Right? And then Prabhupada says that in this connection, it may be noted that if the American boys and girls engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement, already who are engaged, want to advance in Krishna consciousness to achieve the supreme benefit of loving service to the Lord, then they should refrain from this. At least they should refrain from illicit sex, Prabhupada is saying. So a very clear-cut, open instruction Srila Prabhupada is writing in his purports. Therefore, Prabhupada said that everything is in my books. If there is any confusion, all that we have to do is scan through his books and try to understand what Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission was. So Srila Prabhupada is very much openly asking his disciples, to his followers, to refrain from illicit sexual intercourse here in the purport. And why does he say so? Because Srila Prabhupada says that Daksha Prajapati received this. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it was not a blessing of the Lord. Rather, it should not be considered as a blessing, because after having received this blessing of marrying Asikni, Daksha Prajapati got involved in procreation. After he procreated hundreds and thousands of children, the end result was that he offended Narad Muni. So what appeared to be a boon actually was a curse in disguise. It appeared that Lord has given him a facility, and the facility is very typical. Please note the point that Lord is saying that this woman, this girl, is sufficiently fertile and capable of unlimited sexual intercourse. So generally, the norm is that one cannot go unlimited even for this pleasure, sexual pleasure. But here, the girl is suitably capable for having it unlimitedly. And because Daksha had the task of producing unlimited progeny, so there was a competent blessing which he had received. But Srila Prabhupada says that this should not be considered as a blessing. Okay, that I have a partner who can help, who can enjoy unlimitedly. Why? Because Prabhupada says that this entails a risk of committing offenses over a period of time. This entails a risk of committing offenses. In fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also adds, he says that the Lord could have offered prema, he could have offered love to Daksha, his own loving devotional service. But rather, Daksha chose to be blessed by a girl who can enjoy with him unlimitedly. So here there's a stark difference in what Daksha could have got and what he received. Now, in comparison, in the purports, both the purports, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada's purport, the example and case study of Kardama Muni has been brought. Kardama Muni, as we know, is another devotee of the Lord, appeared in the 3rd canto, much before. And when he had a desire to marry a woman, marry a girl, a suitable girl, Kardama Muni engaged in austerity for a huge amount. After having performed his austerity for, I think, about 10,000 years, when the Lord appeared, Kardama Muni very openly asked him to be blessed with a suitable bride. But Prabhupada is, or rather I would say Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, enters into that situation in the heart of Kardamuni and says that actually his desire was only on the fringe. It was very little. It was not a very deep desire. He just wanted to be married so that he can have a suitable progeny. That's all. The idea was not to engage and enjoy the facility, but rather it was just to procreate progeny. That's it. And we see in the episode that Kardamuni married Devhuti, but then he absolutely forgot about Devhuti. He was busy in his own austerities. And Devhuti, the young daughter of Swambhuva Manu, she spent her time serving Kardamuni for years. And this Devhuti was so beautiful that once while playing with a ball on the terrace top of her own maternal home, father's home, there was this Gandharva, Chitraratha, who was going on a plane. And when the plane was actually going much lower, on a much lower altitude. And from there he could see this young girl. And having glanced on this young girl, his eyes got so much attracted that he actually could not restrict his eyes, and then he fell off from the moving plane. So we are seeing a very beautiful Devhuti over here, but then Kardamuni is not attracted to her physically. Only when Devhuti reminds Kardamuni that, you have a duty to perform as a wife, I am supposed to become a mother also. And that is when Kardamuni engages in sexual intercourse for a huge amount of time, thousands of years, and then produces Kapila Dev. But as per the original promise, when Kapila Dev is produced, Kardamuni is back to business. He leaves Devhuti under the shelter of Kapila Dev, and now he traverses on the path of spiritual upliftment. Contrast that to Daksha Prajapati. Daksha Prajapati doesn't stop at 1, 2, keeps on producing batches after batches. The episode of Daksha Prajapati, just a second, please. Hold on. Some background sound coming over here. Hare Krishna. So Daksha Prajapati is busy engaged in the task of procreation. And even though Narad Muni comes in the later chapter, in the 5th chapter and the chapters after that, we'll see that even though Narad Muni comes and diverts all his progeny on the path of spiritual life, still Daksha doesn't stop, keeps on producing. So Srila Prabhupada makes a point, very important point for the followers of the Krishna consciousness movement. He says that even if there are opportunities for sex life, one should voluntarily accept the limitation of having sex only for progeny, not for any other purpose. As opposed to the modern idea that sex is for sense gratification, for pleasure, for entertainment, for for that pleasure of the senses. So Prabhupada is saying that it is not for any of these purposes, but it is for the purpose of procreation. In the modern context, we see that hardly people think about it. People are not engaged in sexual activities for procreation. Everything except procreation. In fact, the modern society, in India also and in the West also, there's a huge propagation of contraceptives. And people think that while we cannot curtail the propensity for sex, let us at least curtail the ill effects or the consequences of sex. And therefore, there is a lot of advertisement about contraceptives, so that at least the population does not increase. So why does the Vedic scripture bind us to this idea that sex should only be for progeny? So the idea over here is that when one becomes a grihastha, one gets married and he engages in sexual union with his wife under the proper Vedic rituals, then if it is done in a proper manner, he will give birth to a child who will be multi-purposes, who will help the parents progress on the path of spiritual realization. That is one thing. In many of the Vedic principles, in Karma Kanda Vidhi, a son is required to perform some Vedic rituals, and that need is fulfilled when you have a progeny. Another purpose is that when a father and a mother, a couple, has a child, then the tendency for sexual desire gradually diminishes. In fact, according to some modern studies, it is said that the husband and wife continue to have sexual desires as long as they don't produce a child. But once they produce the child, a child comes out, then the focus, the attention, and the whole transformation of sexual desires happens, and then the husband and wife get absorbed in now taking care of the child. So having a progeny is also a way to reduce the urges of sexual desire. And gradually the mother and father, they become, from a husband and wife, now they become mother and father. So their focus and attention is now totally towards the child, and because the child is the center of the object, there is strong bonding also. If there is no progeny, if there is no son, there is no liability. One can engage in sex and one can then easily push off. But when there is a child, then they have a responsibility, they have a liability. So they can then act responsibly. So this is one very important reason. In the modern society, because there is no procreation, people engage in illicit sex for months, years, with different partners. I was just before just entering into the class, as I opened my browser window, nowadays on this Microsoft Edge browser, you get a lot of those news flashes as you open the browser window, some pulled in stuff from some channels, which I don't know, it happens automatically. So I saw a line over there, and it was saying that the Russian president Vladimir Putin's secret affair with remains, his loving affair remains a secret in Russia. I just opened the link, and while the president is 70-year-old, he has a affair or a partner. Not you cannot say an affair. I don't know about the legitimacy of that. But the girl on the other side is a 39-year-old athlete, a gymnast, and she had gone to inaugurate some gymnasium, and that is where she came in the media. So a 70-year-old person has a connection with this 39-year-old, which could be probably more than her daughter. So a person of that age. So Vedic system is basically to draw out one's mind from this sexual hankering, which keeps on lingering in the mind and keeps on disturbing. Another reason for progeny creation, as explained, is that one has to undergo austerity, atonement. Raising a child, all the grahasthas would know, is no less austerity. Especially as the things are progressing in the modern era, the children are also very difficult. Even from basic things like eating, sleeping, obeying, very difficult. So family life brings in automatically the required austerity. one has to undergo these austerities to be purified. So there is a multi-fold view from the Vedic scriptures when it comes to progeny creation. Therefore, the Vedic scriptures have always authorized that one can marry, but then one should be marrying with the goal of procreating. And as we are saying, so modern context is very opposed. The whole focus of modern life is sense enjoyment. So people come together as long as they are able to draw out sense enjoyment from each other. Once that is over, then they want to change partners. They want to go with another person with whom the pleasure can continue. So this does not bring out actually golden qualities like chastity in a woman and integrity from the husband. Everyone is scot-free. They all come and stay in an agreement. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. As long as things go well, we are together. But once things don't go well, they try to patch it up for a couple of times and then there is a break off. And then they both search for other partner. So this is very rampant. And in India also, we see this kind of live-in relationships. Now people don't want to get married also. People just want to stay together. Like in softwares, we have a trial version. So now they apply the same thing. The software crowd of today is applying the same trial version mentality even to a family life. Actually, the kind of generation that we are living into actually can be sometimes very tormenting. One may have very good intention of devotional service, very honest intention, but then may end up with someone who is absolutely contradictory. And many times these kind of questions come up. What do we do in such circumstances? Well, I don't have answers for that. But all that we can understand definitely is that the current situation is a result of our own karma. And therefore we are landed up into this kind of challenge wherein there is incompatibility between partners. And therefore they have to go for counseling, they have to marriage counseling, or they have to kind of adjust and continue living. So the span of a marriage is very short term today. And divorces, earlier people would feel little social pressure, especially in India, for taking a divorce. But nowadays, it is very common. People very easily are able to speak about it. So the taboo, social stigma was there that one cannot be so easily divorced. Because generations before or years before, people would continue, they would marry not only for this lifetime, but for 7 lifetimes. But now, within 1 lifetime, they marry 7 times, change 7 partners. Modern context is very different. So the Vedic perspective is basically aimed at purifying the consciousness, which in Daksha's case did not happen after 5 manvantars of austerity also. It did not happen. Daksha maintained his mindset. So we can see that it's not the austerity actually which can purify. No, it's the intention, it's the desire with which the austerity is performed. If the desire is to, if the desire is basically concealed and maintained within the heart, the subtle desires, the seeds of sex life, the sensual enjoyment, subtly we try to hide it and maintain it, then even this much amount of austerity cannot get rid of it. Kardam Muni, when he had the darshan of the Lord, in one of the prayer, he asks the Lord that currently I am, too much obsessed with this desire for marrying a beautiful girl, but eventually I want your bhakti. So he openly expressed his desire for bhakti. While being tormented, while undergoing the phase, he knew the goal was bhakti. So he expressed it to the Lord that I want devotional service. And same is the case with Dhruv Maharaj also. All these pastimes are from the 4th canto and from one progeny, from one generation. From Dhruva, we see later on Prithu Maharaj coming, and then the Prachetas coming, and then this Daksha Prajapati coming. So they're all in one line. Even Dhruva Maharaj was very much tormented by the desire for having a kingdom. But then, when the Lord appeared in front of him, he asked for devotional service. So it could have been theoretical, lip service. It could have been. I'm not saying it was. But even if that is the case, they stood a chance because they asked for devotional service. Whereas in Daksha's case, even in the Hams Guhya prayers and previously also, we see that he never asked for devotional service. He glorified the Lord, he appreciated the Lord, and in a more little bit impersonalistic way in the Hams Guhya prayers also. And we are not very sure what did he pray when he was performing the austerity for the 5 manvantaras, because that is nowhere mentioned what prayers he made. And after those 5 manvantaras, when he was reborn and now he wanted to procreate, so again he wanted blessings of the Lord, and that is the time when he chanted the Hams Guhya prayers. So altogether he maintained in his heart, he concealed the desire of sensual enjoyment. He wanted that. Sometimes, like, children are very obsessed with a particular thing, and they're hanging onto the shoulder of the parents and pulling them down, wanting to agree to a proposal which they are very, very, very sure about. They just want that. And the father reluctantly has to admit to the demands of the child, something like that. So Daksha Prajapati's case is like that. And Lord, while he could have given him devotional service, he chose to offer him a longer path. Finally, the darshan of the Lord doesn't go in vain. You can see that Daksha Prajapati is so fortunate to interact with personalities like Shiva, Narada, Mahajanas. If he's offending also, he's offending such great souls. In one lecture, His Holiness Bhakti Ashraya Vaishnav Swami Maharaj here in India, in Vrindavan, he was saying that even if the fight is happening, if it is happening with a devotee, that fight also won't go in vain. That jhagda, that fight, the quarrel won't go in vain. Even if it is cursing and counter cursing, but if it is between devotees and pure devotees like Narad Muni and Shivji, so that doesn't go in vain. Somewhere later, much later, Daksha would benefit from that. So to sum up, as we are already done with our time, this is a very, very, very black and white purport by Srila Prabhupada, very crystal clear. Srila Prabhupada is making his point very clear. He's saying that while Daksha got this facility for unlimited sexual intercourse, it is not to be considered as a blessing. In fact, it's a bondage. And we, as the devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement, maybe under the grip of these material desires, but because we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, we associate with devotees, we should know what internally should be our mood and what should be our prayer. So our devotional life should not be for concealing our material ambitions, but it should be for attaining the ultimate goal of life, which is to please the Lord, engage in the service of the Lord, and go back to home, back to Godhead, and just render eternal, transcendental, loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord and his devotees. So our current situation is not really a hurdle. It's not really the deciding factor, but what we pray for, what internally we aspire for, what we desire for is the deciding factor. That will decide our course of spiritual progress. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. I forgot to seek your blessings in the beginning. I only realized it later on that this is a very, very, very elaborate and very esoteric subject to speak on which I am absolutely unqualified. not just a screen lip service I'm doing, but it's a very, very tough subject for me, especially. I don't hold any qualification or candidature to speak. But when I saw the verse, I was bold actually. This is a very tough verse to speak on. So if I've made any statements beyond my qualification, please forgive that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Wonderful class, Prabhuji. I would like to ask devotees, if anybody have any questions, please go ahead.
Yes, I think Subramaniam Prabhu has a question.
Yeah, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Krishnadas. Actually, I forgot to change my name. Sukhakar Krishnadas from Chennai. It was a wonderful class, Prabhu. Ravindra. Actually, in this lot of the doubts they come, the devotees come and ask. It's a very complicated thing. When they get married, so when they are devoted, when they get initiated, we tell them to do the Garbhadan Samskar, which is they have to do 50 rounds before doing the intercourse previous night, and in the morning Brahma Muhurta time they are supposed to do. So, and definitely God is sending some good progeny for good child comes to their life. But then the question is, sometimes we have told that it's only for progeny you have to do sex, not beyond that. But practically sometimes some devotees, they fall off. They are not able to do exactly for both only two kids. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 10 children and all. He said you can produce as many children provided you are able to give them Krishna consciousness and you give them the track to go back to Godhead. So like that, the current day circumstances, some devotees come and ask, that we know this is the truth, how to go about. Because the contraceptives should not be used. That is actually a blocking.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think Prabhuji lost audio. He cannot hear you anymore.
Oh.
Please wait a minute, Prabhuji.
I'll do some singing with Viveka. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a tune of the Gopi Geet. Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu. I think
Yes, sorry, bro. Data over, so I had to change the connection.
Yeah.
Yes,
So should I
I
repeat again so that it doesn't get lost?
Yes, Prabhuji.
See, this is, as you said, now that when we talk the topics on this, there's nothing to get shy because this is the fact, and Srila Prabhupada has written to really clarify and make clearance for everybody. So there's nothing that you're discussing these topics. This is not we are discussing for our sense gratification. We're discussing to make it a real devotee life. So some devotees who get married, they are initiated devotees. So I am a disciple of Japatak Sai Maharaj. So we did a lot of Garbhadan Samskar. They followed all the samskaras, they chanted the rounds, and some time was given. They did the sexual intercourse, and they had very good children also. So now they say that there are some devotees, we want only 2 children, but we are not able to do, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, you can do sex every year, no problem, but you should make a child and make him a devotee. So, on this context, some devotees, they said how to go about it. So, you have any comments on this? Because this is not to be, contraceptive is not to be used, that's again wrong. Abortion cannot be done, it is murdering.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So all are not pure devotees that after 2 children finish, Vijayas do. They are supposed to. But what is the real time? It may be wrong to ask in this forum, but it's what the question.
I think you know that better than me. What is the real time situation?
Yeah.
You are very much experienced. You have seen a lot of ISKCON. So I would say that scriptures my understanding is that scriptures tell us an ideal situation, a situation that is expected, and then everyone tries to follow in the wake of that ideal and falls somewhere. So 100% following may be possible for a very handful, and others may be in the process. There are practical limitations in Kali Yuga. One may not be able to take care of many children because the situation is very different. Now we are living in flats. Earlier, people would have land, cows, a big place, so they could accommodate, they could take care. The scriptures also on the other side, give us a norm that one should engage in family life if only one is able to take proper care and responsibility of the dependents. That is also there. So we have to strike a balance. If one goes unlimited and then has many children, then maybe that he is not able to take proper care of these family members. So then in that case, what does one do? So our method is very simple in ISKCON. For most of the things, it becomes very simplified. We consult our Shiksha Guru, the contemporary authority, whose guidance acts as it's a bona fide guidance, who knows the practical situation, because in this current context in our time, and then again it changes with place also. In India, things may be different. In West, they may be different. There are countries in which there may be norms that one cannot have beyond so many children. So what do we do in that? So with these kind of practical things, one has to take a stand and try to find a path which is suitable for that person. Now, another thing that gets added is that whereas in the Vedic context, the wife would never go out for working in a company, but in today's day and life, we see that Matajis also have to work to maintain the family, the husband and wife. So there is a little translation of the desired into our current context, which we will have to do so that it is suitable. For ultimate goal is that it should be suitable and convenient for Krishna consciousness, and we should try to adhere as much as possible. Another angle which comes to my mind is that there is this Varnashram system, and we in ISKCON follow the Daivi Varnashram system. Of course, it does not mean that we can get rid of basic Varnashram norms, but then Daivi Varnashram is the adoption of Varnashram into a devotional context of Krishna consciousness. So some things which may not be suitable in the Varnashram system may at times be adjusted in the Devi Varnashram just because it facilitates Krishna consciousness. So my limited understanding would be that whatever is needful, whatever helps one to progress on the path, with some basic adherences, definitely. Like one cannot say, oh, it is suitable for me to marry every year with a new woman. That is most suitable. That keeps me cool and calm in Krishna consciousness. Not that way. Not that way, definitely. But adherence has to be there. One should be progressing on the path. Srila Prabhupada makes this one point that at least one should refrain from illicit sex. Prabhupada, while writing the purport, makes that one line also. When the bare bottom should be kept intact, beyond that, how much one is able to progress. Now we talk of these 4 regulative principles also: no meat eating, no gambling. When it comes to these kind of things, there is a shastric ideal, and then beyond that, in the name of practical, there are so many things which can be adjusted. What is gambling? The stock market is gambling or not? There's a discussion on that. Some people would say, oh, no, it's an investment. Some people would say, no, it's okay. It does not. Gambling, what's the purpose of gambling? Oh, it should not disturb the mind with the immediate money and the hankering for that, losing, winning. So there, in such kind of situations, one has to take the call in consultation with spiritual authorities. Like in family life, we have this, the ABCD, association, books, chanting, and taking prasadam. When it comes to prasadam, how much are we able to fully follow? How much is compromised? So things are ideally supposed to be made from the hands of a Vaishnava, offered to the Lord, and then taken. But then in practical family life, children are there and all sorts of adjustments have to be done. It is visible. I'm not recommending them, but I'm saying that what is visible. So people, well set grahasthas do get things from the market. Everything is not possible to be cooked in home. So things have to be purchased, ready-made foods have to be brought in, offered, and then taken in. So it all depends on now one's seriousness, one's intent in Krishna consciousness that he will decide. Finally, the scriptures give us the guidelines, and then it is up to us how much we adhere and how much we follow. Yes, Prabhuji?
Prabhu, just one point. You said that illicit sex, Prabhupada just told not to do. And Rishabh Dev in the fifth canto is telling Pita na sasyad, Mata na sasyad, Janani na sasyad, Guru na sasyad, that unless you are trying to make them devotees, you fail as a father, as a mother. But currently circumstances, there are father, mother initiated, but children are not following. So they are telling what to do. We are telling them they are gone for the Gurukul also. But suddenly they just say we don't want to chant. So they just totally get depressed. What do we do? I said there is a karma also there. No, they come with the karma back. So it is not the parents have done the duty. Karma neva adhikara, you have done it. If they come or not, you can only pray to God. You cannot force them. Maybe at some point they'll change and come back. So like this, there are various problems coming. Even those who are practicing devotees, the children are not following.
This is not a new thing. It is in the scriptures also. Traditionally also we have seen of like Maharaj Anga was a very nice devotee, but his son Vena was absolutely a non-devotee. Right? So we see that Kashyap Muni gave birth to some demigods also, and the same Kashyap Muni through Diti gave birth to demons as well. So it's a traditional problem. It is not a new thing that parents get, the husband wife are devotees and the child is many times a non-devotee. I can say one thing over here. One formula is given by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Anta Kalecha Mameva Smaranam Muktva Kalevaram. That formula says that if one remembers me at the time of death while quitting his body, then he can attain to my abode.
Yeah.
But then while speaking on this subject, we many times highlight ki, okay, it is not something that will automatically happen at the last moment. Someone may argue that, okay, lifelong I will just enjoy and at the last I will try to remember Krishna. And our common answer is that no, that's not going to happen. One has to practice it throughout one's life. So similarly, if one just does Garbhadhan Sanskar, it's like the last moment thing that we are doing. But one may have not lived a life in the Vedic context. Yeah. And then just putting a Garbhadhan Sanskar at the end does not guarantee things that things are going to be in the way expected.
Yeah.
There are so many sanskars before Garbhadhan Sanskar, which probably have just, our life has just gone in ignorance during those periods. We never knew, these are the things. The husband, the father, the child who becomes the father, he himself might have not undergone the Vedic training, Gurukul training, etc. Now, then to expect that his child will become a pure devotee may not be necessarily. In cow procreation, there is one concept of purifying the breed. So when the breed has got contaminated because of mixing, Parna Sankara, then it will take many generations of procreation. Try to get the original breed. It takes 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 generations before we start getting the original breed. So like that, in ISKCON, maybe we are all in the second or third generation somewhere. So the Gurukul system, which now ISKCON is actually working on, will take some time till the breed starts getting purified. Wherein the boy in the Gurukul had his father who was also in the Gurukul, has his grandfather also was in the Gurukul and undergone the Vedic system. So that kind of breed purification will happen and then maybe the results will be visible. Currently, what is the scene is that parents they have become devotees in their adulthood. Some in 20s, 30s, 40s, and now they realize that this is needed, so they have put their child. So this is just the first generation. But over a period of time, as the breed purification will happen, then maybe we can expect results. So we can just say, we can just depend on that at this point of time. But the process will work definitely. If one neha bikram nashosti pratyavayano vidyate. So if one has absorbed himself, dedicated his time into the process, that does not go waste. That is clearly what Lord Krishna is saying. We fully take that with full trust that it's not going to go waste. Any endeavor on this path is not going to go waste. It's going to yield results. Only it may take some time.
You told about live-in relationship. The live-in relationship, what I find is, how do the court legalize that? Because it is really for the girls who are going for live-in, they go to a big problem because they agree contract for 1 year and they become pregnant. So either they have to kill the child or the child will not know who is the father. And they will be looked down by the society. Oh, it's living relation. Nobody talks to them also. So the male escapes, but the female has got a big problem. And India are following UK and US. UK and US also they're suffering. The government has to pay a lot of money for the girl who is in the road. It's like a dog mentality, proper dog mentality. So how can the Indian constitution agree for this? No, that living no problem, you can go ahead. And many children are like foolish people. Don't tell the parent they get not married, live in relation, and the girl suffers. Initially, they think 1 year, but where the girl will go? But the boy will run away. I don't know how India is agreeing to such things, and they should not have legalized, Prabhu. It is such a big, sinful reaction they're getting.
Well, yeah, your concern is very much valid, but it is outside our circle of influence probably at this point of time. Two quick things came to my mind. That one, there is a famous saying, grass is green on the other side. One is this. And Radhanath Maharaj quotes this very beautiful example between the Western dog and the Indian dog. He says that the Western dog, the Western people, to compare it with a dog actually, they are doing everything very openly. So they are there on the streets doing everything very openly. And the Indian person is like that dog who is actually sitting in a car and his head is outside the window and the saliva is falling from the jivha, seeing this Western people, but because of social pressure, he is not able to openly, but he has a strong hankering, but he is chained. There is a chain on his neck, the social pressure, which is holding him somehow. Otherwise, he is also fully wanting. So when in material world we face a certain situation, the general norm is to find another solution. In fashion industry also we see that things recycle. In 70s there were bell bottom pants, then bell bottoms went and something else came up, and then again 25-30 years later on it recycles. So same way, when people come to the other side, then they recycle it and then something else has to be brought as a solution. So here live-in relationships seem to be the solution probably for those people who are trying to tackle the problem of marriages and the problems connected to marriages. So now they are thinking, let's go free. West has already done it. They will recycle it back to, okay, let's go to married life now properly. It keeps on rotating like that. So the hippie culture was there. The devotees who became Krishna consciousness during the hippie culture, they have a strong feeling that no, having a proper set married life, Vedic life is the solution. Those who are here are thinking that way is the solution. Keeps on rotating. No end to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Dandapranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
are
you
there
so
any
much.
other questions? Yeah. Comments or any? We have two participants. Prahladanand Prabhu.
Hi, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Dhanavad Pranam to all Vaishnavas here. This is very sensitive subject matter, which is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And not only in the modern world, but this has been the problem throughout all the generations. So Rushabdev Maharaj says in the 5th canto 5th chapter, it says, Yadana Pasya Guneham Swarte Pramatta Sasa Vipaschit Gata Smruti Vindate Tatra Tapan Asadhyam Maithunam Agaram Agna. So we are all Agna who come to this material world, and we have fallen in this agar of Maithunam Agaram. Right? So we are all like that. And, I've been in the practice of gynaec like that, and I've seen so many illicit affairs which ending in unwanted pregnancies, and a lot of termination of pregnancies, legal and illegal, which one has to indulge in that. But I take solace in Lord Krishna's promise in Bhagavad Gita. He says, "Apiche suduracharo bhajate mamanadeva." So it's great mercy of Sri Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that fallen souls like us, and they come to center to get causeless mercy of Sri Prabhupada, and then if one gets into the service of Lord Sri Krishna and pure devotee, I'm sure Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will deliver anyone who takes shelter like that. It doesn't matter. So we have a hope, whatever the life is going on and whatever the material, influences. Bhagavan Krishna is always inbuilt plan for all of us who are here, and somehow we will get mercy of Sri Prabhupada and great devotees like that. So I had just little reflection like that. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Very, very interesting point, Prabhuji. Very interesting point. I just want to reflect a little bit on this. You brought out a very interesting angle and a point which I missed actually. This Apichet Suduracharo. There are few verses in the Bhagavad Gita and in Srimad Bhagavatam which actually give hope when we feel absolutely hopeless. And this is one such verse. And reflecting how it applies in our context is, so dharma is to be adhered at different levels. Dharma is at different levels. At the bodily level, there is different dharma. At the social level, there is different. Rashtra dharma is different. Stri dharma is different. Purush dharma is different. So there are dharma is at different levels. And devotional service goes beyond all levels also. So in what Prahladanand Prabhu was also saying, that one may be able to follow some aspects of dharma while neglecting others or while being ignorant about others. But if one takes to the path, to the process, very, very firmly, with determination, bhajte mam ananya bhak, then Krishna also guarantees, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, openly welcomes that person is fit to be called as a sadhu. Sadhu revasa mantavya. It's only time that is separating. He will again be reinstated in his original position. So that actually gives us hope. Because in the limited span of Kali Yuga, 80 years, 60 years lifespan, how much can we study about dharma? How much can we actually start practicing? May not be possible. In fact, the life will just go in researching what should be done and what should not be done. So much of confusion. So we rather just follow the elevator path of Krishna consciousness, and that will take care of all that has been done, all that was not done, remaining, pending, everything will be taken care. Very nice reflection, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prahladanand.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other points? Mataji, do we have time? You can just take the call. I think.
Krishna Prabhu, I got one more point which I was completing. Actually, two devotees approach. They are going to get married after 2 years. They are more initiated only. But that girl has got some financial trouble, so the father approached after 2 years. In 2024, they can get married. So the question was whether they both can meet each other. So as per the Shastra, before marriage, they cannot associate together.
Can they meet each other?
Meet, okay, but they cannot just stay alone and all. No, they can just come in the family, be together, but going alone, again, it will go against the rules of our Grahasthashram. But they said that anyway, we are already engaged, so what's wrong in meeting each other? So if they get engaged and they should become pregnant before marriage, that's again, it is crossing the limit. So these are all small things, but when you come to the Shastra, it has got some limitations.
Yes, Prabhuji. Shastras are very protective of women. The whole idea of woman protection also also will come into place when we are talking about protecting her future also. And at the same time, while women are always kept in custody, but at the same time, they are given a lot of freedom and independence also. Like in the Vedic times, we always see that many a times we see that the woman is given a choice to marry a person of her own choice. There is this concept of Swayamvar. Swayamvar means she herself will decide for herself whom she wants to marry. So it is not that always they are kept in a box. No, you cannot come out of this. Now, if realistically she has to do a Swayamvar, then competition could be one deciding way. But at other times, like in Rukmani's case, she spent a lot of time hearing about Krishna, knowing about the person. The idea is to know the person. So she spent a lot of time hearing about Krishna. That was from bona fide source of Narad Muni. That's how she developed her love. And then she decided to actually run away. So marriages are of 8 types. And this particular marriage happened in the between Lord Krishna and Rukmini was not in the traditional way of coming together in a mandapam. It was a Gandharva marriage. They had to run away and get married. So Vedic system has, on other hand, we also see that Lord Krishna got his sister Subhadra married to Arjuna, whereas Balramji wanted her to get married to Duryodhan. So Krishna planned for the security of her future also. So girls would develop love. Girls would learn about the person whom they want to marry, and then that also was an important thing. Like Mother Sita also heard about Lord Ramchandra and married. So my point now, this is a very practical thing one family has to decide. But knowing a person is also equally important. And what could be the bona fide means of knowing each other? That Shastras, I'm not sure how much they have spoken very openly. I am also having limited knowledge. But then knowing a person would be something in the interest of the girl also, for her future security. And actually, in just 1 or 2 meetings, that does not become possible also. It is just a eyewash actually. Just 2 meetings, 3 meetings, can't exactly understand the person. Although astrological charts are matched, gunas are matched, but then finally there is a mismatch. So at the end, finally, we have to also depend that this is Krishna's will, my own karma. So now whatever is there, we can't find that perfect man and the perfect woman and it happened.
The genuinity cannot be revealed like that. It is again Krishna's mercy, whatever Krishna decides.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Please forgive my shortcomings. This is a very elaborate subject. I'm not saying.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Hare Krishna. So, Mataji, how do you proceed from here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. If nobody have any question, we can end the call here, Prabhuji, with your permission. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for enlightening class today. We are very grateful to you, and we look forward to your association again and again in the future. Let's pay our obeisance to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kripanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha.
Jai.
Dandavad pranam Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for the beautiful class. Dandavad pranam Prabhuji.
Gauranga.